Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hello friends and welcome to another recommendations video. And first off, I wanted to say a big thank you to everyone for the birthday wishes. Turning 32, I'm feeling pretty good about it. You know, there is something, I'm sure those of you who are older than me or around the same age probably know this, that you can either be like fearful about each age that you turn, or you can just kind of be like, I've made it. And that's kind of what I try to think, is like, I made it and I'm going to be happy about it. For that, again, thank you for all the birthday wishes and for the kind words and the encouragement. It means so much to me. I appreciate it all around. So today, what are we touching on? Today, we will be doing Romance on Another Planet. That was very specific in the request. I can't remember who requested this one. I think there wasn't a name listed with it, but this was a requested video. I, of course, have some alien romance recs and sci-fi romance recs, but this very specifically, people wanted Romance on Another Planet. So that's what we're going to call this one. That's what we're going to go with. Now, there will be some overlap of this in some other sci-fi romance I've made, just because honestly, there is a pretty narrow amount of authors that I read sci-fi from. That is something I'm definitely willing to expand. I definitely have others on TBRs that I want to get to. But for the most part with this one, you will see that I'm a bit pigeonholed in certain recs that I have. But I hope to, by, going through some of these, to maybe point out some books by authors you already know and love that you maybe didn't know about them, because you're very familiar with just one series that this author writes, but they also have a whole bunch of them. So that's what we're gonna kind of do with this, as well as, again, I have a few other random ones, and also some throwbacks. Like, I'm talking real throwback. You'll see what I mean when I get to it. But with that being said, we are going to start with some Zoe Draven, because in my opinion, she not only writes amazing sci-fi and fantasy, a lot of her books even feel more fantasy romance than they do sci-fi, but they do all take place on other planets, so they're a great crossover if you because a lot of the planets that stuff of her books are on, they're very low technology, so it's like it's an alien, but it also just feels like a romantasy, right? Of course, we'll get to the ones you mean. But I would love to point out another series by this author that I think people have not heard of or they haven't looked into. And in fact, she also has a whole other series that I haven't read at all. But one of the series I read very early on by her is actually The Crave of Everton, is what the series is called. And I think some of my erotic romance lovers, though I'm not saying these are erotica, but I'll explain why. I think some of you who like some good spice will also really like this book, because the aliens in here are called the Crave. And they are actually a type of refugee alien, okay? And our hero in this one, the first book is called Craving Kiva, is how I'm pronouncing it. I believe that's how I was told the time ago when I read this. And these Crave have been refugees, and they're staying on this other planet, but they're also basically kept as slaves, because they are very skilled in pleasure because of one of their alien qualities. So in the beginning of this story, we have Eve, who is an outcast in her colony. She's very lonely, and she has never had true intimacy. She has no hope of finding a really good partner. So she decides to use some of her money to pay for one unforgettable night with a legendary alien, which is the Crave, okay? And so they are these non-human who have these special abilities in the bedroom, where I will explain it for you here. Their semen is specifically made for extreme pleasure, okay? So when they get their semen in a female body, it's basically non-stop orgasm, okay? And so because of that skill, they are kept prisoner because they have no home planet to go to, no place to escape to. These Crave are kept in this madam's brothel and being used for this service. Now, to not go into the entire detail of this book, but I will say for Eve, part of what this story is that she's unaware that this is a captive situation. Okay, so this isn't a known thing that all of these Crave are being forced into this. At least it's not to the everyday person like Eve. She just knows that there are these elite brothels you can go to get a night that is worth any amount of money you would spend on it for unparalleled pleasure. And then she meets Kiva, one of these Crave, and she starts to build a connection with him. And it honestly, like, is a bit frightening to him that he's having some feelings for this woman as well. Now, this is still, you know, like sci-fi fantasy romance, so maybe you'll be able to understand why this one customer of all the others appeals to him. You'll see. But I remember this being a very emotional read for me because I never read anything like it. I had read some alien romance up to that point, but it usually had to do with, like, you know, some alien penises, not alien ejaculate. But how that works and like what it does is actually very fascinating, and I just thought it was such a creative thing at the time. On top of, again, being very, like, I felt very emotional for Kiva and the other Crave that we meet in this series. So yeah, this is a very unknown series by her. There are not even 3,000 ratings for this. And it's a very unique story. So I want to put this one forward first from Zoe Draven before I talk about some of her more well-known books that I also love. But yeah, this is a really good one. And again, why I said it, you know, if you love erotic romance and like kinky things, it's very fascinating. But this also isn't only about the sex, but this is also, you know, an escort hero, kind of, right? He is being more like forced into what he's doing. But again, you'll find out all the complexities. You'll find out how Eve feels when she finds out what her money is going towards and what it means to be paying for services of Kiva. And I thought that was very fascinating how it was handled. Let's just say that. We'll just put that out there. So there we go. Now, another series by hers, which we will be getting more books from shortly, is The Brides of Calor. And I'm so excited because book 3 in this series is finally coming. Zoe does take her time getting books out, but she is at least on a more regular schedule now. And I've been so happy with the books that have come out. Like, I don't even care. It's fine. And I'm very thankful to her PA, who is really keeping things moving for us, which I love. But The Brides of Calor was a series that she started in 2022. And there's currently the 2 books out, as I said, but there will be a 3rd book, which I will be getting an arc for. Very excited. So this first one in this series, Desire in His Blood, I loved this one because it very much has a Beauty and the Beast vibes, which, again, very common within fantasy and sci-fi to have that type of situation. But I enjoyed this. It had real enemies going on, particularly between their families, at least. Our hero, his name is, let's find his name, sorry. Gemma is the heroine, and Azur is the hero. And so he's seen as cold and cruel, and he is of House Kellium, and he's a High Lord, which, you know, we love a High Lord. And he demands that Gemma is his blood bride. And because, so this type of alien, fantasy creature, they have, you can tell, like, their wings, and they are a type of kind of like vampire monster is how we would explain it. And they're like a cross between like a vampire and like a berserker, if I remember correctly, because they can also go into kind of like this blood rage when they have a certain type of blood. Again, don't want to spoil things, but he picks her as his bride as kind of punishment to her family. Her father, there's something that he did to hurt Azur's family, and so he wants the bride of his enemy as like revenge. And so Gemma is supposed to do that. Only when he, you know, is finally consummating that and taking blood from his bride, he is shook by the fact that she is his blood mate as well, which, you know, fated mate, spoiler alert here. And that is not something that he is expected, because now using her just for revenge is not going to be as easy as he thought. So that is the first one in this one. A few other things just to mention about the world, and I'm very excited to see where this will go, because I believe book 3 is actually an accidental pregnancy, and I just love the idea of that. I love that in Alien. I love it anytime. You guys know, okay, accidental pregnancy is, I love that. I know not everyone does, but I do. I'm very interested to see that one. But there are also in this world, because there are these creatures that need blood, there are like kind of these like blood brothels where people can go, and, you know, taverns and places that offer people who are willing to give blood for money and everything. And that's a scenario we see in book 2. So yeah, that is what we have with this series. So Brides of Clore, as you are noticing too, kind of a pattern, maybe it was Zoe Draven, she really does love like a fated mate situation. I mean, don't we all? And to me, that's really where her like the sci-fi and alien stuff she writes meets like romantasy, because to me, I think of fated mates more in like paranormal and fantasy, and I think she crosses those things very well for sci-fi. So moving right along, I'm talking a very long time about Zoe Draven, but I would of course be remiss if I didn't mention her other very popular books. And again, there is another series of hers that I haven't even read, so I'm not mentioning that one, but I know it's a pretty long series, so I need to get to that. But we have, of course, the Captive of the Horde King books, which I believe the inside of this one has the other cover. I did order 2 of the books from her Kickstarter. So there's Captive of the Horde King. These were the first ones I read from Zoe Draven, right? So at the time I read it, I think the first 4 of them were out. And so I binged all of those, and then I went and read the Craven Kiva because she didn't have anything else out. But Captive of the Horde King, this takes place on, I think the planet is Drakkar. No, is it? Or is that just the land? I can't recall now. Oh yeah, it is. Haha, look, I look at the book. It is the planet of Drakkar. And there are humans who are there who are kind of subjugated by other beings. And there are these Horde Kings that patrol the land. And I believe in the beginning that our heroine's brother has a careless mistake. And it brings the horde of nomadic barbarian Drakkari straight to their door. In exchange for not killing her brother, she offers herself to him. And he takes her as a war prize, but also as his bride. So there is that, and that's the start of this series, which I love. It's very much inspired by kind of like Khaleesi and Drogo, Dany and Drogo. You will see that is very much how this one is inspired. There are also like a bit of alien anatomy on these ones. Like we have some alien dick. There is like knots and all that good stuff. There are also tales. She loves writing tales in hers. So that's this one. And then the spin-off series, which is what she just started, and the Horde Kings of the Hordes of Ithaca. This takes place in the same world as the Horde Kings, but I believe it's 200 years later. I think it's only 200. It might be even longer, but there's definitely a lot of remnants of the Horde Kings in here. Like if you read that series, you'll see a lot. In fact, a lot of people want to read that whole series before this one. I don't think you have to. It's that scenario of like, if you want to start with a single book to see if you like it, you can, and then go read the others, or read the others and then read this. It's fine. But this one has like dragons involved, which I love. And this one is another kind of like a forced marriage scenario. And we have a scholar, Clara, who she is forced to marry Sarkin, who's the king of the Sarothian horde and a dragon rider. And I believe the Ilthik are what they call like the dragons, but they also basically call them dragons in here as well. And she basically must get her own dragon. So there's like some training sequences within her here, preparing her to claim her own dragon. But yeah, this is a he kind of forces her to marry him because of a prophecy, and he threatens to kind of destroy her homeland if she won't marry him, and blah, blah, blah. But I loved this book. I actually gave this one 6 stars last year just because I just love how Zoe Draven writes. If you can't tell, that's why I brought up all these different books from her. But I enjoy these so much. So there you go. The first half of this video, we spent all on Zoe Draven books. I truly think she's amazing. There are audiobooks for most all of hers if you love that. She's in KU, I believe, for most all of them. So she's a really great one, in my opinion, even for kind of starting out, because besides the, well, even, yeah, her heroes aren't too alien, right? So some of these we're going to get to have very alien heroes with, like, not just their dicks being different or them having a tail, like full on very unhuman like. And I know that that is difficult for some people. Believe me, I know, I understand. I don't hold it against you. I just ask you, you know, maybe give one a try, because some of the sweetest heroes I've read have looked very hideous or been just absolutely weird looking. And I think that leaves room really for good, kind of a Beauty and the Beast scenario, right? Because of how different they are. But let's move along. We'll stick with a few other old favorites. So, of course, you know, I had to bring this series up. In this case, we have all human-like beings in this series, but it is all sci-fi and takes place on different planets. So it really works well. And that, of course, is the Hold series by Claire Kent. As I will always disclaimer, I am actually a PA for Claire Kent. But I did just actually reread both Hold and Fall from her to help make some promo material for them, because she has a special edition is going to be coming out that is a bind up of this whole series. It has exclusive art that she's commissioned. But what is this series? So this is a mix between, well, it's a sci-fi series with different, some of them are prison planets, but they're either someone who's on a prison planet because they have pissed off their government or pissed off the wrong people somehow, or else it is within, like, a planet where there are, like, corrupt governments and things like that. So the first one, which is by far the most famous and also one of the most unique that I had ever read when I read it. This is what started my obsession with Claire Kent, so it holds a very special place in my heart. And all of these are novella length, which, like I said, once this is in a bind up, it'll basically be like a normal size book with all 4 of them in it. But this one is about Rihanna, and she is sentenced to a prison planet, and it's a dark, primitive hold filled with convicts vying for power. So her only chance of survival is to find the strongest man there and give herself to him in exchange for protection. And that's the only way she'll survive, because otherwise she's just going to be taken and raped and passed around till she's dead. The only women there who are surviving, they are basically paired up with a man. There's even one guy who's really the king of the roost down there, who has like a harem of women who just kind of, he takes his turns with them. And this is fascinating to me because one of the skills that I personally think Claire Kent has with her dystopian romance, and with even a few other titles of hers as well, is how she can show what is such a dark scenario without it feeling super oppressive. Like, it's really hard to explain that until you read one of her books, because the description of this sounds like an absolute hellscape. And like, it is. The place that Rihanna is awful. And her relationship with Kane is absolutely like she's offering her body for safety. But how it's written is in this almost like they're awkward new lovers together, because yes, he wants sex and he will protect her in exchange for it. But he's also, you know, he's never had this type of scenario either. And he's not a cruel man at all. He's just trying to survive, and he's a big, tough, buff dude who can protect himself. And he also has a very coveted space that he has, because he actually has a cell that he can lock it himself. Because they're not really, the way they're looked at out after by guards is that, like, they're just literally down in this hold, and food gets delivered at different times, and it's really just a free-for-all, like, in this pit. So the cells aren't necessarily like shutting and locking, because there's no way for them to escape, so they don't have to be locked into individual cells within the hold. But honestly, that's even more dangerous because you're just, imagine just being in Gen Pop all the time and having to sleep in Gen Pop, right? So the fact that Kane has a room that locks, it's not like closed off, like people can still look in on them when she's providing her service, let's say. He also has like a bathroom that is like hidden away from the door, and that is like amazing. So anyway, not going to be the most appealing for everyone, but I truly was fascinated by this story. So this is the first one, very short book. Then we have Release, and this one is about Kyla, who she is the daughter of a royal family on a planet known throughout the coalition for its indulgence and debauchery. And now she wants nothing to do with empty pleasures, at least until she encounters Hall. He makes her want to explore a sensual side of herself for the first time, but he has already declared himself as a potential suitor for her sister, and so they're not supposed to be together. So anyway, this one is a like sisters suitor type of book. I will say these all connect by one character or the other, so I won't tell you who or how, but each book there is either a cameo or a mention of characters from other books. So that's how they connect, but in general, you can read any one of these in any order you want. Then there's Fall, and this one, though it is a takes place on another planet, this is also a caveman romance, okay? Which is what's super unique about it. And in this one we have Lena, who she was a pilot and a smuggler, and she was flying under the radar, except she ended up getting caught, and she was dropped in a planet dump, that's what it is called, on this planet that is back thousands of years still in advancement. So there are just cavemen roaming around. This one, if you like Transcendence, there's a lot to like about this one, because it also has that language barrier, though what I like is that we are able to start to learn each other's languages, which if you've read Transcendence, you'll know they're never are fully able to communicate because their brains are literally different. That's a whole thing about Transcendence. It is a brilliant choice by that author, how to write that. But this one, Lena needs food and protection, and the only way to do that is to get yourself a mate. And she does meet actually another human there who was also in a planet dump, so at least there's someone she can straight up just speak English with, and he kind of tells her a bit of the ropes within the tribe and like how she can become the mate of one of the men there. And so she meets Roan, I think is his name. Sorry, my mind just... Is his name Roan? Yes, his name is Roan, and he is one of the very built cavemen who's there, that she wants to cozy up to for food and protection. So really good. Again, really short, but it's one of the very few caveman romances out there. And I have had people ask for caveman recs before, right? You know, I get requests all the time for the videos people want, and I've only read 2 of them. So that's one of those where it's such an oddly specific rec, I don't think I'll ever be able to make a full video for it. But there's Transcendence, and there is Fall, and there is also another that is kind of like a caveman, but we don't mention that book because I loathe it so much I refuse to even recommend it in a video, but you can probably find it if you look it up. You'll see that. And then the last one is Rise, and this one has kind of a like gladiator style thing that happens here. So we have a hero, Desh, who is competing in a tournament, and then we have our heroine, Talia, who is a sex worker on this planet, and her job is to have sex with any of the men there, and she can offer her body to Desh, but offering him her heart would mean giving up the hope of a future, because if you take a partner, you know, then you aren't in the sex work anymore, and then she like wouldn't have any money. So there's more to this one. I'm probably being pretty vague. This is the one that I've only read once. I've read the other ones twice, so it's been a while since I read this one, but I'm sure I will eventually, because as I said, I'm rereading her books for content. So this is the Hold series. It is very unique, but again, if you don't want to read too much alien anatomy, all of those have human bodies. They're just humans on other planets. All right. Then, let's see. Okay, let's throw one in here. This one's a quickie one. I bring this one up all the time when I talk about aliens or when I talk about alien penises or alien bodies. And I just love this one. It is so sweet. It is very low angst. It is pretty much all about the smut. And that is Jumping the Shark by Ash Raven. And this is the Shark Daddy. And this one is our heroine goes on a date. And she gets kidnapped on her first date. Though she did meet this man through a dating app, and this dating app is actually an app that aliens across the planet have learned to hack to find mates, because they, I guess, have run out of kind of mating options on their planets, and they've discovered that human females are compatible with their anatomy, and so they'll get to know someone via a dating app and then do a little research on them, and if they're able to easily extract them from their life, they will take them. And in the case of this, our heroine doesn't have any family or anyone to miss her. And she has a great connection with this guy that she goes on a date with. And she ends up getting kidnapped. And when she wakes up, she's actually on his planet and gets asked to be his shark bride, basically. And they're both into a lot of the same like kinks, because he also, like they talked about that on the dating app before, he has 2 penises. Shark has 2 penises, and there's a bit of daddy kink that goes on in here. And yeah, this one's a bit more weird, but I actually was tickled pink about it, and I loved the cover. Okay, I loved this. This is adorable, and it was sexy and sweet. This one is very sweet. Again, very low angst, especially compared to some of the other ones we'll be talking about, but I just loved it. Loved it so much. Okay. Now we will talk about a few Tiffany Roberts, okay? Again, there's someone who writes a lot of sci-fi, alien, and monster romance you will get from Tiffany Roberts. But first, I just will quickly mention this one because I mention this one all the time. And when I was talking about the ones that have very alien anatomy, this is, of course, one that always comes up because we have Ensnared. And I always mention I love them with my whole heart and soul. Like, look, his extra arms are, he made this dress out of his silk for her. Anyway, Catan and Ivy are one of my favorite couples ever. I hold it as a great accomplishment that I've convinced many people over the years to give this spider alien a try, because it is not how you think it is. Like, it truly is such a beautiful couple. I love them so much. Like, I can't even express it fully, like how much I love them. And this one, we have a case of, we actually start with Catan's point of view, and he's just living his life on this planet. And he is actually a very sought after Vrix is what he's called. Though he will colloquially be called the spider alien by both our heroine and by others in this story, but his people is called the Vrix. And in this like civilization, like the females are the most powerful, but he is a very powerful male, and so he is very much sought after by the Vrix queen. I think Varashi is her name, or Katrashi, I can't remember, but she is a crazy bitch. Queen Zervashi, sorry, there it is. There are audiobooks for this whole series, by the way, which is great. And she very much wants him to be her mate and to impregnate her so they can have very strong young together. She also has a female fighting force, which I love because, again, the females are bigger, and so she almost has this group of warriors that are a bit like Black Panther's force, you know? If you've watched Black Panther, you know, the badass female protectors that he has, his bodyguards. That is like what the queen has, because again, the women are all bigger. I mean, females. When we're talking about the aliens, you will often hear male or female said very often instead of he or she. But Catan isn't interested because he doesn't desire Varashi, and he mostly would just like to stay on his own. So he has his own little nest to himself that he takes care of. And one day he stumbles across this plane crash, which again, he doesn't know what that is, but he finds this structure that there are these again, I'm using our words. It's very interesting how he describes them in here, because he doesn't, I think that Tiffany and Robert, this is a writing duo together. I think they do a very good job of making it clear that this is an alien world, and that this is an alien mind that we're in when we're in Catan's mind, and it doesn't think the same way that we do. So the way that he describes things are very different, right? But he comes across this, and there are these like pods that have creatures in them, and he doesn't know what humans are, but he sees this one, and she's this creature in there is so interesting to him. And anyway, what happens is we find out he rescues her from this pod and takes her back to his nest. And she, of course, is terrified. They don't speak the same language. They can't communicate in the beginning. And he sees her as almost like a pet or like a creature, because he doesn't know what humans are. And so this is a very slow build to their romance, because they are very alien to each other. And when they first are having desirable feelings for each other, they feel like there's something wrong with them, which I thought is such an interesting touch. Because again, if he sees her as, again, doesn't know about humans, doesn't know about other intelligent life, that's not something that their world knows. And so when he starts to feel attracted to her, he thinks there's something wrong with him, that he's attracted to what he thinks is an animal. You know, very interesting how that's handled. But now, like from Ivy's point of view, again, very terrified of this Spider-Man, but he is taking care of her and trying to feed her and look after her. And slowly they start to try to find a way to communicate. And she's able to explain that she was a part of a group that was looking to colonize another planet, and their vessel crash landed on this place. So in the place he took her from, there is the other people that she came here with, who are still in their cryo sleep, but will eventually, that pod will run out of power, and if they don't wake them up, what will happen to them. So again, talked about this too long. I said I was going to mention it quickly. I apologize. I talked too long, but I love this book so much, and I always want to convince people to try it. And again, I have convinced many people to try it over the years, and for the most part, I've heard good things about it, because I think once you get into Catan's mind, and that's why I think it's so clever that this series starts from his point of view, because he's not the alien here, Ivy is. And I think that is so clever to portray such a alien being to us, who to us is, you know, a spider with anatomy that would terrify us, and to make Ivy the one who's different and odd, and she's the one we don't understand what she is. I think it makes it a bit easier to, you know, be on his side and things. So this is a trilogy about the one couple. We get to see, you know, not only them falling in love, but then the difficulties of being together, and can their people coexist? Can they rescue the other humans? Blah, 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 all those things. And there is finally a book in the spin-off series, which will be about, during this series, you'll meet, of course, some other Vricks who are brothers and partners of Catan, and there will be a romance coming soon for those other Vricks and their partners. So anyway, that is the one that everyone pretty much knows about. That's the one that really got popular for them, mostly because of how strange it was and then how good it is, which is great. But another series of theirs that I want to mention, and they do have a lot of alien romance, but they have quite a bit of alien romance where the aliens come to Earth as well. The Spider's Mate and the Silent City are the ones that are, is it Silent City? I think so. Is the one that they take place in other worlds. So there is the Silent Lucidity is the first book in this other series. And this one is a bit offset from the others, because further books on in the series are about like kind of literally like a gang of space pirates, as it were. But this one is about Tenthal and Abella. And in this one, Tenthal is an assassin, And he goes to this one club where I believe he's supposed to have a job, or he's going to meet with someone for a job. And he sees this girl dancing, and her name is Abella. And it turns out that she is actually a like slave, basically. And she's being forced to dance and entertain. And she is, I can't remember if it's a collar or if it's a bracelet or whatever, but she has a mark of ownership on her. And when Tenthil sees her, this is a fated mate story, when he sees her, he not only, you know, wants to get her out of captivity, but he feels like she belongs to him. And so he is going to piss a lot of people off and break a lot of rules to take her as his mate and rescue her from there. So yeah, this is an assassin rescuing basically a slave girl and giving her freedom, and then, you know, will she be in love with him and want to stay with him, even with the job that he has, type of thing. But other books in the series, there is, I believe, Shielded Heart, and there is one that's called like Hunger in, I can't remember the full title, but that one's actually my favorite because that one is a not his baby. I'll put up a picture of this one, and this is also kind of like a cat type looking alien, but she's actually already pregnant, and in the beginning she's actually held captive. Forgot that this one, she's also held captive, and he is doing a deal for his boss with it, which Shielded Heart has who the boss is, and then the other books after that one have like other people who work on his crew. But he sees this human woman who's pregnant being held captive, and he rescues her. But when he rescues her, she thinks he's just another alien trying to keep her, because he plays kind of like a game with the dude and says like he wants to buy her and wants to have her, when really he wants to rescue her because he's with the good guys, right? Even though they're a group of bandits, like he's also our good guy, right? There's also a big like Grump and Grump story. They're both pretty grumpy. But when he rescues her, she is like, I'm not having any of it, because she's actually a badass herself, and she got herself in a tight spot when she got kidnapped and locked in this cell by this guy who likes to experiment on human women, and he's even more fascinated because she's pregnant and he wants to do things with that. And so she actually then attacks her rescuer and gets away. But later on, they partner up again, and again, this is not his baby, and the way that he feels about the tiny little human that she births is so good, and the little girl ends up like calling him like Kitty, which, I'm sorry, I love it. It's adorable. But anyway, this whole series is great. I actually have only not read the last one, and it's because it's an MFM. I don't love MFMs, right? And it's these like twin brothers, which isn't really my thing. But I do trust Tiffany and Robert because they don't really write taboo besides it being aliens. So I have a feeling it'll be like, I'll like it. I haven't got around to it yet. But anyway, that is a series by Tiffany and Robert that I feel like doesn't get enough attention. And it's really good. Like, I enjoyed that series a lot. So I highly recommend. It's also the one that I have like the most, okay, I'll show you. I have probably the most art of that series because they send out quarterly art to their patrons. And let me see if I can find a page that doesn't have, ooh, that page has him on it. Here, this one doesn't have a sex scene on it. These are the characters in this series. So there we go. We love it. There we go. There's our cat alien man. Like, look at him there. All the different characters. That's Tenthil, the one from the one I mentioned. So, anywho, moving along, because this video, it's getting longer than I meant it to be. But those are some Tiffany Robert ones. Then we have, well, I'll just share this one quick. I've said that about all, but I mean, there is the Naga series. These ones are all like pretty vicious Naga aliens, and these human women who, they are there with a group of scientists who check if this planet is able to sustain life, and they find these group of Naga there who are actually mutated humans, which you'll find out through the series, and there are no females left of their kind, and so they need to mate with these humans. So this is a fated mate one that is like, these Naga are feral for their females. Like, it is insane. And they also give off these pheromones, so it makes the females also like crazy for them, and it also helps like prepare their bodies to be able to mate with a Naga, because otherwise things wouldn't work quite so well. So there's that one. Like I said, I'll talk quick about that one. Then there is, of course, the Clicanian series, and there's Choosing Theo. And this is one where our heroine is actually stolen from home because there are other planets all over, and Earth doesn't know about them, but the other planets know about Earth, or they discovered Earth. And in another case, as it, with a lot of these aliens, is that they're having problems having children, and they've discovered that the anatomy of a human is compatible with theirs. And so there are some bad guys, though, that have stolen some human women. So we have Jade, and she gets stolen and taken, and then she gets rescued by the Clicanians. And they're willing to protect her, but she has to stay on their planet for 1 year and respect the rules of their culture. Bit sus, isn't it, though? But that means she gets to choose a mate, and she has to stay with him for a certain amount of time. She isn't forced to mate with him, but she's forced to choose a mate. And so she chooses Theo because Theo shows the least interest in actually wanting to mate with her. And so she wants that. Well, the thing is, you know, this is going to end up being fated mate. So the man that she picks, because he doesn't want to mate with her, may end up being the one who is meant to mate with her the most. So there's that. But yeah, this whole series is really great. And, it's also kind of like a matriarchal society as well. So that's always interesting to see. Okay. Then, I wanted to bring up a throwback one. So this is where we're going to end this. We're going to end with a throwback series. This is from, honestly, my high school days, I think. It came out even before then, but I heard about it when it got like a reprint. And I was in high school when that started happening. It actually first came out in 1995, which, that's about at 30 years now, I think, isn't it? But this is The League by Sherilyn Kenyon, and the first book is called Born of Night. And this is in I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. It's in a different universe, and there is the League, and they are a rule of assassins. So they're expertly trained, and they are the backbone of the government, but they are not immune to corruption. So there's a commander named Nikirian, and he turned his back on the League, and so they've been hunting him ever since. But though many have tried, no one's been able to kill him. So he's been given a, because since he doesn't work for the League, though, he has kind of created his own little thing where he will do different jobs to, you know, sustain him and make money doing what he does. And there is this girl named Kiara Zamir, and she's a woman whose father's political alliance has made her a target. I believe she's also like a dancer, and so she's this very sweet, kind of almost mild woman, and Nikirian gets assigned to protect her. So she has to entrust her life to him, but he is a different species, and he's the same type of species who is responsible for her mother's death, and so she is a bit hesitant to be protected by him, shall we say. But yeah, so they're going to fall in love with each other. So I absolutely loved this series when I was young, and particularly the first like 3 books in the series. I loved them. Then it got a little bit too much for me, as a lot of kind of like, I connect this with kind of some of like the paranormal series, because I had read Sherilyn Kenyon's like paranormal series where, you know, it just goes on and on and on and on and on forever and ever. But to me, the first 3 books in this were, I think, all out when I read it, and they were kind of like the original, almost like trilogy. And I really loved those. But this one was fascinating. This one is a type of fated mate as well, I believe. And yeah, I've never tried the audios for these, but I know that the audio books are available for these. But yeah, I just love this world. It is very like kitschy. It is very 1990s, you know, sci-fi, paranormal to it. But I loved how grumpy he was. I loved how he's very much the like, I hate everyone but you. And even he kind of hates her in the beginning too, because there are some, you know, things that have to do with why he takes this job from her father. And like his resentments he might have towards her, stuff like that. But yeah, I really loved these ones. And when we're talking about romance on another planet, I wanted to bring that one up for you guys here. So, okay, well, this video ended up being longer than I meant it, but I guess I did have some deeper thoughts about some of these. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll have links to all these down below, as always. If you use those links, it does help out the channel. Make sure you like this video, subscribe for more content, and thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much. Bye.